What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Two titanic title matches on last night's Smackdown, plus Matt Riddle seeking revenge against Solo Sikoa in a no DQ match. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of Smackdown, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including low expectations for Chris Jericho CM Punk talks, bad news for AJ Styles, Alexa Bliss besieged by autograph Hound, Seth surprised by Backlash bout, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new channel, Wrestlelamia Shorts. Now, as always, we won't recap the matches, but just look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number one, a solid IC title match. Gunther vs Xavier Woods was another example of how the Intercontinental Championship has been restored as an important title. Much like the US Championship on Raw, the IC title is vital due to the lack of world title defenses on either brand. Gunther has risen to the occasion, putting in fantastic matches regardless of who he faces and making opponents look good in defeat. Last night's match followed this pattern, and while Woods vs Gunther was largely a throwaway match, the WWE's efforts to elevate the title made it still seem like a major match. Number 2, good build-up for Shinsuke vs Karrion. Is the pending program between Karrion Kross and Shinsuke Nakamura going to do anything to elevate either superstars' career? Well, probably not, but it should be a good program given each wrestler's abilities as well as the build-up we've seen for the program. Karrion Kross and Scarlett's warning to Nakamura deliver the goods, and why shouldn't it? Both superstars could read a menu from Denny's and it'd still be interesting. Number 3, solid tag match. The Viking Raiders vs Braun Strowman and Ricochet match stole the show despite some solid competition. Both teams are entertaining, and as we've mentioned before, Strowman and Ricochet have gelled well, but that was the good. What about the bad is number 1, rematch after rematch. The question of how much Vince McMahon is booking the WWE remains high in fans' minds, and last show provides further evidence, especially in the area of rematches. The Viking Raiders vs Braun Strowman and Ricochet is a match that fans just saw 2 weeks ago, not to mention watching the two teams slug it out at WrestleMania 39's Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Showcase match. Even worse was last night's rematch between Riddle and Solo Sikoa, especially since they battled each other on Monday, although at least this time they added a stipulation to the match. Number 2, tag team awfulness. Last night's women's tag team match had one highlight, the fact that the WWE actually aired a title defense shortly after the new champions were crowned rather than waiting months for their defense. The rest of the match was mediocre at best, with a ridiculous ending where the babyfaces blatantly cheated to win the match. While a Rodriguez and Morgan heel turn might be interesting, it didn't seem to be the reason behind the team's heel-like behavior. Number 3, the LWO's losing streak continues. Is the LWO ever going to win a match? While Legado del Fantasma's record was spotty on SmackDown before they joined Rey as the LWO 2.0, the current record is awful. Their only purpose seems to be keeping Papa Ray from having to count the lights during tag matches. Even worse is the idea that Bad Bunny is likely to be brought into the team with Ray, and he'll help Ray do what the LWO couldn't do, score a major win over the Judgment Day. Way to put your full-time wrestlers over, WWE. Number 4, Braun's botch. But does Braun Strowman really think that little of his flippity-flopper tag team partner Ricochet? Maybe that's the reason for Strowman throwing Ricochet and the Raiders and missing the mark completely. Braun and Ricochet are a good team, but this looked like something on an indie show. At least Strowman didn't do this to his former tag team partner Nicholas. Number 5, predictable main event. Riddle vs Solo Sikoa no DQ match featured plenty of action, but the ending was so predictable that it made the entire event an afterthought. It's hard to get into a match when the outcome is obvious and the WWE doesn't even bother with a clever finish, instead relying on the obvious interference from the Usos. How many times are we going to see this? And what happened to earning title matches? One of the best things Triple H has done to elevate the WWE's titles is to establish that matches are earned. There are occasional exceptions, usually involving Sonya Deville demanding one and an opponent agreeing to it, even though Sonya's win-loss record should have her competing on main event. But largely, Trips has featured tournaments and gauntlet matches to ascertain who gets a title match. That wasn't the case with last night's title matches, nor is it with Zelina Vega vs Rhea Ripley, a match that is all about giving the fans at Backlash a hometown hero to cheer for against the Nightmare. Just another reason for only the most delusional of fans thinking Vince isn't heavily involved in creative. Now, there was nothing ugly about last night's show, but it was a disappointing SmackDown that felt like creative was treading water until next week's draft. What do you guys think of SmackDown this week? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Now, first story looks at low expectations for Chris Jericho CM Punk talks. Atop of today's news is a reported upcoming meeting between Punk and Chris Jericho to talk out their differences ahead of Punk's rumored return to AEW. According to PW Torch's Wade Keller, there's considerable concern about the talks as well as whether the Elite and Punk can resolve their differences. Regarding Punk and Jericho's meeting, which is reportedly being moderated by FTR, among the people I've talked to, there's not a high level of confidence that the meeting is going to go well, that it could make things worse. But maybe not, maybe things will work out. As for Punk and the Elite, Keller added, "It just sounds by every indication that the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson's heels are dug in. What do you think of CM Punk possibly returning to AEW? Is it a good move or a bad move?" Next up, the wrestler Tony Khan trusts the most. Keller also discussed how Chris Jericho has become Tony Khan's right-hand man, with the AEW president relying on Jericho's decades of experience. Jericho is the closest confidant of Tony Khan right now when it comes to things that include him but go beyond him. I don't know how often, but there's times where it's like, where's Tony? Oh, he's in Chris's hotel room, or he's off in this restaurant booth talking to Chris or wherever they talk. And it's not just about Chris Jericho stuff, like Jericho is a sounding board. There are people in the company who tell Tony, listen to Chris, he's been around. Next up, bad news for AJ Styles. It looks like AJ Styles is still recovering from the broken ankle he suffered last December. PW Insider is reporting, "We asked a lot about AJ Styles, who was not around Mania weekend, and we're told it's just a matter of him being cleared to return from the broken ankle he suffered in December and being ready to perform. We haven't heard he's been in at the Performance Center or anywhere else on the road for the company." Styles has discussed how he plans to end his wrestling career in WWE, but it may be a while before he's able to resume it. In the meantime, we send our best wishes to the phenomenal one for a full recovery. Next up, a woman suing The Rock and others, including Chris Benoit, for $3 billion. A woman is suing The Rock and others for billions. Former Impact and WWE wrestler Raka Khan has filed a $3 billion lawsuit. Ringside News is reporting, last year in October, Raka Khan, real name Tranisha Biggers, filed a lawsuit in the US District Court, Southern District of New York, claiming conspiracy to kidnap Biggers and her children. The lawsuit was filed against over 24 defendants, including The Rock, Nikki Bella, Mick Foley, Maurice, The Miz, Jim Cornette, Billy Corgan, and even the late Chris Benoit. It's also reportedly listed many other defendants. PW Insider's Mike Johnson added, "There have been no movements on the case for months, but court records now indicate that in February, Biggers was authorized to move forward with the lawsuit with prepaying any court fees." Johnson has noted that Biggers has not served any of the defendants with court papers. Given the number of defendants, the cost of the service will be very expensive. She cannot proceed until she serves the defendants. She also appears to have problems of her own, as in December 2022, a bench warrant was issued for Biggers' arrest by Texas courts after she failed to attend a criminal trial in El Paso, Texas. The charges against her include interference with child custody and aggravated kidnapping facility. The warrant for arrest is still active according to Texas court records. What do you guys make of this story? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, Naomi working in STARDOM. Could former superstar Naomi work in Japan's STARDOM promotion? Apparently there was talk about bringing her in, but Dave Meltzer is reporting in this week's Observer that STARDOM is feeling a budget crunch. Thus an example that they were told could bring in Trinity Fatu, but it was felt it would cost too much for the return and thus far hasn't made the deal. But Naomi is dismissing Dave Meltzer's report as she posted a picture of the story via Instagram and put "not true" over it. Next up, Alexa Bliss besieged by Autograph Hound. It looks like Autograph Hounding, looking to make a fast buck off a WWE superstar, has struck, this time besieging Alexa Bliss for 9 autographs.
I got a couple more if you don't mind. Thank you so much for your time. Can't wait to see you on Saturday. Just a couple more.
Next up, Seth surprised by Backlash bout. Did you know Seth Rollins is competing at Backlash? Apparently the visionary was too after the WWE announced several bouts for the WWE's upcoming PLE in Puerto Rico. Rollins tweeted a gift from Ace Ventura as Monday Night Rollins is scheduled to face Omos despite the two having zero history together. The lack of a backstory for the match reeks of Vince McMahon's booking, as Triple H has made it a practice to build up matches with some sort of storyline, whether they're a TV match or a PLE clash. And finally, Shinsuke's dark match. And last but not least, where was Shinsuke Nakamura? Well, the King of Strong Style returned to SmackDown last week, squashing Madcap Moss. While the WWE is building up a program between Karrion Kross and Shinsuke, Nakamura didn't wrestle on SmackDown, but according to several tweets from fans attending the show, he squared off against LA Knight in a dark match, emerging victorious overnight. But there you have it folks, the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, as well as our review of SmackDown. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.